Hello, folks. Al Wilson here. It's tonight is the Friday night. What is the day? The 22nd or 23rd? But in any case, of June 2012. I came here tonight thinking I was going to have a live show, as usual, and there's apparently it's all just pre-recorded now. That'll make it awfully easy for corrupt elements within that have taken over our government. Planning our downfall to prevent certain messages from getting out. So I'm going to have to do what I planned to do tonight anyway, which was play excerpts from Coast to Coast AM or am.com if you're online, and that I've saved because I thought they were of interest. There's really no particular order to this, just various food for thought. And I'm going to have to be figuring out if it's possible for me to release some data that a lot of people have been killed trying to release, and I feel certain they would put up a rerun and whisk me off and I'd die of natural causes or suicide or something. See, that's the new American way. But here's some excerpts that you may find of interest.
Yeah, that's a national security event bill that's passed the House, not the Senate, by an incredible majority. And it states that you can basically be arrested and charged for trespassing even if you protest on the National Mall, Library of Congress, anywhere. It's a direct attack on the First Amendment, and that did pass the House about 5 days ago, the middle of last week. That did happen. And again, it's just par for the course. This attack on basic liberties that's taking place is very frightening. It's on record that Ron Paul gets 70+% of all military donations for all Republican candidates and Obama combined. What does that message send to the elite? The military is awake. You can block Ron Paul out. You can steal elections from him. You can engage in fraud in Iowa and Maine, which has been confirmed. But the military knows that what he's saying is common sense and stands with him. You know, I got pulled over tonight, going a little bit over the speed limit, trying to get back here to my house for this interview. And the police officer that pulled us over was a listener and said, "You were speeding, but I'm going to let you go." And I'm not saying it's a good thing to let me go, but the point is, he was a listener. I was out at a rock concert tonight watching Megadeth and Dave Mustaine. He's actually right here at my house with me right now. And I literally walked through that crowd of people, and every other person I talked to was a listener of my show and of Infowars.com. Again, it's not about Alex Jones being a big shot. It's about the fact that we're reaching more and more people, and people are resonating with the truth. And so we've got a good chance of stopping this. And you're right. When we give the system power and when we decide it's unstoppable, we just give into it. But the truth is, it's always darkest before the dawn. We're going to turn this around.
What about Iran? You see us going in there? We sure have a lot of hardware parked in the region.
Yeah, I've got family that's in the Army officers, and they told me 6 months ago Iran will be hit by Israel. There will be a war. And look, Iran is run by extremists. Iran is definitely a danger in the region, but the political interests that run our country are just as big a danger. You know, they fund both sides and then use that synthesis to gain power. 70+% of the Iranian people are pro-America. They want freedom. The mullahs are a tiny minority, and every study out there shows an attack on Iran will empower the mullahs and keep them in power for another 20, 30 years. They don't have their nuclear weapons developed yet. They're a long ways from getting it. War is not the answer with Iran. The answer is supporting their population, supporting freedom in Iran. But unfortunately, war with Iran is very, very close, and unfortunately, the political corrupt interest here in the West will use a war with Iran as a pretext to take our basic liberties.
Breitbart was going to reveal that, I suppose effectively, that President Obama was affiliated with known radicals such as William Ayers and what's her name, Bernadette Dorn.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah, he had footage of them in meetings with FBI informants where they were openly calling for the overthrow of the U.S. government, re-education camps, secret arrest. I mean, we're talking about Stalin-type stuff. We're talking about Hitler type stuff from the fascist angle. And that they say they're going to release it. They say they've got it and they're going to release it. Let's see if it happens. But Breitbart said, "I'm going to vet you. This didn't happen 4 years ago. I'm going to bring all this out." And he said it, and he's dead. I mean, the day he was going to release it, he died. And it hasn't been released yet, so we'll see what happens. But let me tell you, people that call us conspiracy theorists for saying this looks suspicious, well, thank God I'm a conspiracy theorist. I mean, that just means I ask questions. I'm not gullible. I mean, it's very simple. I hope he died of a heart attack. I hope it's not dirty tricks. But to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist and I'm bad because I'm not gullibly just believing whatever I'm fed. I mean, again, people don't buy this anymore. People are questioning, and that's why the power structure. Hillary Clinton said last year, so does the Bigdan Brzezinski. They said, look, we're losing the info war. The American people don't believe us anymore. It's real simple. I don't believe confirmed, known liars anymore. I don't believe people who've been caught lying over and over again. And if you want to call me bad for not believing known liars, good, go ahead. Because I'm siding with common sense and not just the American people, the people of the world.
It's a little bit disturbing, don't you think, that you have this NDAA thing that's passed. They want an internet kill switch. You've got a Supreme Court justice up there that insists that the Constitution is an evolving, living document and that it should be changed to accommodate the what? The current rulers, make things a little bit easier for them. Then you roll way back in time to the, then you roll in the money, where Henry Ford said in 1922 that it is well that the people of our nation know nothing about our finance, because if they did, I believe we would have a revolution before tomorrow morning.
Yes.
And when you put all this stuff together, I don't think you have to walk around and be neurotic all the time about it, but you do need to be vigilant.
I think if there was going to be some kind of a so-called revolution, it would only be a revolt that would be easily put down by foreign soldiers that the corrupt leaders of this government now have already made pacts with foreign countries to put down American citizens who claim that we have a constitution. However, if the military did it, even the lying media would have to think twice about not covering this story, and it would be professionally organized and would have a chance. Plus, they have the hardware. So a military revolt may be what is needed. Maybe all we can do. I don't know.
So all the other businesses and operations that aren't part of their inner club. And it's that crony capitalist system that's waging war against the real capitalist system and trying to discredit capitalism. When capitalism never went wrong, we got away from capitalism, and that's why we've gotten in so much trouble. This country, 5% of the world's population, 50% of its wealth, because we had a modicum of liberty, a modicum of private property. But there's all these special interests. They want to shut down competition. They want an inside game. They want a set, gamed, fraudulent, rigged system. And that's what we're facing here. That's the system that we're going into right now. And that's why there's such incredible demonization in the media, but also in government training manuals, of the Bill of Rights, of the Constitution, of all of it. Because it's that Bill of Rights, it's that Constitution, it's that Declaration of Independence that states the basic rights that we already inherently have, and that is basically holy water or a cross or garlic to these globalist parasitic vampires. They're scared of our inherent liberties. They're scared of the power of freedom. They're scared of individuals who support liberty getting together collectively against the collectivists. They're scared of that, and that's why they're trying to bring in this global corporate fascist New World Order. But I'm here to tell you, that New World Order is dead on arrival.
Senator Bob Graham, Democrat of Florida, and his former Senate colleague Bob Kerrey in Nebraska. He's also a Democrat who served on a separate 9/11 commission, said in a sworn affidavit of his own that significant questions remain unanswered. So here's the thing. You just keep going. And if you know at the end of the line, if you and I look like a couple of, I used the term earlier, a couple of alarmist nut jobs, well then so be it, because that means that everything is at peace and all is well. Have you explained to the Coast family how these people, these scientists, manage to disappear the moment that they really have something serious to bring to the party, such as these free energy devices? Touch one more time on some of these scientists whose facilities have been raided and who in some cases have been, well, done away with.
Well, some of them have come forward in the film, sometimes for the first time. Others we've got footage of or we refer to, but not by name because they prefer not to be named. But John Bedini showed a device at a town hall meeting in Los Angeles several decades ago and announced that he was going to start selling free energy devices, and he was visited in his lab by a couple of thugs who put him up against the wall and said basically he'd be taken out of the game if he did. So he's continued to do amazing inventions and teaching people about how energy works, but has acknowledged publicly that he can't provide the over unity so-called devices that are that he's capable of. Same thing with Adam Trombley, who was he and his partner David Farnsworth came up with some devices that he was invited to show at the UN and also at the U.S. Senate, and they were shut down prior to those demonstrations, and their lab was raided. John Hutchison is another one who had both free energy batteries. He's Canadian, and he also had anti-gravity devices. His lab has been raided and equipment taken on 3 different occasions. So we're really in this predicament where we've got these fantastic possibilities that are in fact now available. They're possible, they've been manifested, but the political and economic situation is such that they're not available to the public yet. And I'm happy to say that it's probably the single strongest reaction we've been getting to the Thrive movie and what we call our critical mass actions on the website is that we've been getting papers from theoretical scientists, we've been getting contacted by inventors, and also by people who want to contribute or invest money to get these technologies out, really from all over the world. So this will be a decentralized, gradual, and as safe as possible emergence of these technologies all over the planet. It can't be stopped for much longer.
Tuesdays at 1 p.m., Saturdays at 5 p.m., twice a week. Something will be pre-recorded here. I came here tonight thinking I could release some bombs live on the air where I couldn't be stopped. Now when I try, and caught me totally by surprise, so now if I try to release something live, I can't do it. I have to pre-record it. And of course, there's the walls have ears, so to speak, and certain individuals will know what's going to air before it airs. There's a big danger in that, but I'll try to figure out if there's some other way to do it.
If we look at this whole movement that started in the 60s, the feminist movement of women going into the workplace, and the Ms. magazine and the people, the main people in the feminist movement, they were all funded by the CIA. And this is not, this is in Gloria Steinem's autobiography. The CIA came to her and funded her magazine, the whole feminist movement, and it was to get both men and women into the workplace.
Why would the CIA do that?
Well, Rockefeller in one interview basically said we realized we could have twice as many taxpayers. I mean,
Well, I guess that's smart, huh?
Well, just to map this out, what's happened to our economy. When I was a child growing up, my dad could go out and have a job,
and make enough money, like most men, those, a large percent of men could go to a job, 9-to-5 job, make enough money to support their wives raising their children.
Or, if not make enough money, at least people didn't have this obsession with buying two of everything.
Exactly, that as well. We had a humble house, but my mother was very happy raising her kids, and then when the kids grew up, she went out and created her own job and so forth, but most of the time she could be there with her family. That was a choice she could make for women that want to be there with their children. That's not a choice for most women today.
They have to work.
They have to work. But the reality is that America's dollar got nailed to the petrobug on February 14th of 1945.
Let me interrupt this for a moment. This fellow was a records destroyer in San Francisco at the Presidio, and basically just gleaned all the information he could from government records before he destroyed them, is what he claims, and I think he's telling the truth about that. But this is a very controversial thing he's saying right here.
45, when Franklin Delano Roosevelt met with the king of the House of Saud in the Great Bitter Lake between the locks of the Suez Canal, and at that point, the United States nailed, since it had been taken off the gold standard by Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933 and had floated the world on a fiat currency because it could print all the money it wanted, the American dollar became the de facto world currency. When he nailed it specifically as a petrobug to the output of Saudi oil, then at that point, America surrendered both its financial sovereignty and, in a very real sense, its foreign policy sovereignty. It slave-circuited it to the whims of the House of Saud. Because at that point, that's why America gets not a single drop of oil from the Arabian Peninsula. All of its oil comes from the rest of the world, Nigeria, Venezuela, Canada, you name it. It gets it from whoever it can get its oil from, but not Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabian oil goes to Europe, goes to China, goes to Japan. And as a result, whenever the Saudi House wants a change in foreign policy, it gets it. One of these was the Iraq War, when Americans declared war on Iraq and they dusted it with depleted uranium. This was known as SAD, Strategic Area Denial. They made it radioactive to the point of the equivalent of 44,000 Hiroshima-sized atomic bombs going off across Iran due to depleted uranium. And as a result, that's an area that's far more radiated than Fukushima Daiichi and Japan. This is why Gulf War vets come home with their teeth falling out and their hair falling out. It's radiation illness. And Dr. Dragovic, a Serbian doctor who was concerned with NATO use of depleted uranium in Serbia, he personally paid for chromosomally testing Gulf War vets and found out that the vast majority of them, from the time that I was in the Gulf War, during Operation Desert Storm, had suffered chromosomal damage equivalent to as if they had undergone chemotherapy treatment the totality of their adult lives. And when he proved that, he was fired from the Veterans Administration, but his conclusions were irrefutable. Radiation sickness. That's what these GIs are coming home with. That explains an enormous majority of Gulf War immunodeficiency syndrome or Gulf War syndrome illnesses. And
we haven't heard very much of that in a long time.
No, but that's still GIs come home with their teeth problems, gums bleeding, hair falling out. This is radiation illness, needs to be treated as such. And the point that I'm making is they took Iraqi oil off the market. And so what's going on right now with the Enterprise in the area of the Straits of Hormuz, known as Hormuz in English, that's a floating Fukushima. It's over 50 years old. It's got 8 nuclear reactors. All the Iranians need to do is sink that. They block up the Strait of Hormuz for 24 hours. They shut down the world economy. They got prices raising already if they were to do something like that. Now, they wouldn't want to do that unless they were absolutely forced to, because it would impact them terribly to do that. It's like a suicide weapon. But they would do that if they were forced to do so. The Americans know they can do that because before the Gulf War that I was involved in, Operation Desert Storm, the Americans were talking about Operation Millennium Challenge. And that was actually set up, excuse that was actually set up before the Bush War II, if I remember correctly. These days, I'm getting all of my war games exercises mixed up, but all you have to do is look up Operation Millennium Challenge, and what they did was they took a Marine Corps general, General Van Ripper, and his last name spelled Vanriper, and General Van Ripper basically was employed out of retirement to be the enemy, and he was using only just the most basic pleasure cruisers, speedboats, anything a third world nation would have, but no true military weapons. What he did was he war-gamed that he had Chinese Silkworm missiles, which were designed by a Chinese American who had defected to the Chinese because he had been so persecuted here in the United States. In the war game, he took down the USS Enterprise and its entire carrier task force, all 16 of them. He sank the entire 16-ship fleet. And the Pentagon said, well, we don't have to change anything, and he resigned in disgust.
Let me just read from page 9 here, and I'll be brief. The Rockefeller file is not fiction. It is compact, powerful, and frightening. The drive of the Rockefellers and their allies to create a one-world government combining super capitalism and communism under the same tent, all under their control. Do I mean conspiracy? Yes, I do. I am convinced there is such a plot, international in its scope, generations old in planning, and incredibly evil in intent. That's Congressman Larry McDonald, 1975. In 81, he called for a comprehensive congressional investigation of the Council on Foreign Relations and the Trilateral Commission. On September 1, 83, he died aboard Korean Airlines Flight 007 when it was shot down by a Soviet interceptor after accidentally straying over the Sakhalin Islands.
There's a collection of incredibly wealthy families. None of us can really imagine the kind of wealth that they have. These are the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Rothschilds, the Harrimans, and so on. For generations, they've had this sort of vision of creating a one-world government with a single currency and a single religion and so forth. And, you know, it all sounds like a sweet dream until you finally realize what they want. And, you know, basically all they want is control. More control, as if they don't have enough already. And, you know, like I said, this has been generational. It's actually, if you follow it all the way back, goes back to the 18th century, you know, with Rothschild and, you know, the Illuminati there.
Well, and then there's a Freemason crossover in here somewhere with Albert Pike. I think his book came out in 1789, or one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
This is a really deep rabbit hole, and we should advise the listeners that this is going to be a pretty amazing ride.
John D. built a refinery in 1863, and by 1870 he incorporated Standard Oil of Ohio and formed a monopoly through the National City Bank of Cleveland, which was owned there by the Rothschilds, according to a congressional hearing. By 1880, John D. owned or controlled 95% of the oil produced in the United States. That's how successful he became. He maintained this monopoly despite attempts from Congress and the Ohio Supreme Court and the U.S. Supreme Court to break up Standard Oil, but he just, you know, he got around them by, you know, passing control over to his son and, you know, breaking up the companies into a bunch of smaller companies that he still controlled. And so by the time John Jr. came along, he decided, okay, there's a, you know, bad impression in the public about the firm, so what we'll do is we'll start charitable things like the Rockefeller Foundation just to give us a better image, you know. So that's how the Rockefeller Foundation came into effect here. John Jr. had some, you know, a group of sons. We all know who Nelson Rockefeller is. He began work.
All right, this is going to pick up again on the next show recording. Every Tuesday at 1 p.m., every Saturday at 5 p.m. I'll try to figure out how to release some very important information without getting killed in the process. So keep an eye on this show.